Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Razak at CMTrading. Today is January 25th, 2023, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, we're watching the Australian dollar push and break out higher versus the USD. But first, looking at the major economic events of today. So at 5 p.m. South African time, out of Canada, we have a Bank of Canada rate statement. That's an important number. We're going to take a look at the Canadian dollar. But first, looking at the various markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, the major pairs pretty much on lower volume and just tapering off. Looking at the indices, the Dow Jones tapering off while the NASDAQ actually selling off. Looking at commodities, both gold and oil retracing. Looking at the stocks, the tech stocks did retrace yesterday. And lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin holding on. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we're starting with the USD CAD, the Canadian dollar versus US dollar. We're pretty much on support here, okay? We are trading at 133. It's tested this area a few times. As you can see here, it's tested it on a 4-hour chart. We spiked last week, if you remember, and then we took an about turn. That's after the CPI number from last week in Canada. But this is really an important number today. That rate statement is going to give us some telltale sign which way the central bank of Canada is gauging their inflationary rate. And this is really important because we may have a breakout move. As you could see, it's at that bottom of that range. Now looking at the Australian dollar, look at that, 71.04. Now we haven't been in this area for quite some time, okay? This is before that V formation, and this is the first one to go above that 200-day moving average. This goes back to August, before we had that debacle from last summer, end of last summer, going into the beginning of September, October, where we sold off in the Forex symbols, which was a tremendous sell-off. So we are making our way back now. Now looking at the other major pairs, really unchanged day to day. So I'm going to focus on these two, okay, because this was a major breakout for the Australian dollar. I wouldn't buy it here, but I would wait for a retracement for me to consider if it does break above that 71.70-ish level, okay, because there is momentum here, there is strength. Now jumping into commodities, gold finally retracing yesterday, 1930. We did retrace from 1940-ish level, but altogether we're hanging around, okay, around resistance-ish area. So we're okay, as long as it trades between 1940 and 1919-ish level, I think we could sustain this growth that we've had and perhaps even give us a little bit more of a push on the upside. Now looking at crude oil, we're making a double top, okay, at 82.40, as you can see here, and we're just at 80 bucks, okay? So it did retrace, not a big deal, but it's been choppy, okay? It's been really, really very choppy, hadn't broke above that 82-ish level, and so it's just hanging around here, okay? I don't want to use a better technical term than that because there's no indication that this is any kind of price entry for oil. Now jumping into the U.S. markets, the Dow Jones yesterday tapered off from 33,800-ish level down to 70.50, which is not a big deal, okay? Not a big retracement there. A decent retracement, you know, on a technical Tuesday, which is really didn't do much. But when we look at the NASDAQ, it did. Okay, the NASDAQ did sell off quite more aggressively, about 150 points, where some of the tech stocks did retrace. Okay, so if we look at them, we saw yesterday, it's not populating, but let's take a look at Tesla yesterday, retracing just a little bit to 143. Facebook, just a little bit, you know, after that nice run to 145. So there are some pockets of retracements. Now, they're not massive, but they are pockets of retracement, which is interesting because Intel, I would have expected it to retrace, but it's been sustaining itself. It's been pretty strong. So this may be, okay, a thesis for the rest of the year that we may see ourselves actually kind of coming back throughout the year, okay? And this is something to consider as we go into this year. Lastly, Microsoft came out with numbers yesterday, 241 trading. It's you know, after hours were also decent. So, you know, with that said, you know, as we're going into earnings seasons, there's going to be a lot of sway in the markets. Now, also take into consideration, there are layoffs right now. So it's going to be a mixed kind of message, I think, until we get a clear indication from the Fed which way interest rates are going and how much the CPI has been controlled moving forward. Now, lastly, looking at Bitcoin, sustaining itself, 22,700, okay, just shy of 23,000, but it's holding on. It's not selling off. It's not aggressively selling off, at least not yet. Okay, so again, if you're going to trade this, just be very careful with it. Okay, because it can turn on a dime, especially if it can tank and give up all of its gains that it's had over the past few days. So keep that in mind. Trade responsibly. This is Fed Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.